Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining. I am Joe Peterson. I'm the Vice President of Cloud and Security for Clarify 360 and the Chief Analyst at ClearTech Loop. And if you're with us today, this is ClearTech Loop, our podcast, and we're here with Dr. Anton Chuvakin, Senior Security Staff, Office of the CISO at Google. Hi, Anton.
Hello there. Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for making time. In case you guys don't know Anton, he has a long history in cybersecurity, and he is well known and respected in the community. He's been at Google for 6 years. But before that, until June of 2019, Anton was a research VP and distinguished analyst at Gartner for technical professionals, security, and risk management strategies. So for those teams. And at Gartner, he covered a broad range of security operations and detection and response topics, and is credited, and I did not know this about him, but it's kind of cool. He's credited with inventing the term EDR. I did not know that about you, Anton. That's cool.
Well, it's a great achievement if the date on the calendar were 2013. Of course, it was 12 years ago in real life, so I'm not sure I just should be like super proud of it, because you don't get to invent a major acronym every year, even if you're at Gartner, and definitely not after Gartner.
You should be proud of it. It's relevant still. So
yeah, it sure is.
You've got a really interesting job with lots of moving parts. So people are probably sitting here wondering what you do day to day. Well, tell us, what do you do?
So our team, Office of the CISO at Google Cloud, is kind of an interesting outlier of sorts, because we do work for a real CISO of Google Cloud. Of course, as of today, this role is vacant. Phil Venables, our CISO of several years, have left, and we're looking for a new one. But the team still does what it was created by Phil to do, namely that we help customers be secure. But notice that some other teams that seem like they're doing field CISO work are kind of more connected to sales. We are not. We are really the team that helps cloud customers to securely experience cloud. We advise, we write, we sometimes advise internal teams. We do a lot of other things that fit into this big miscellaneous bucket, but ultimately we are here to help cloud customers, Google Cloud customers, but also cloud customers in general, to have secure cloud experience. And of course, now that includes AI, which makes it much more fun.
I have to tell you, hats off to you and your team, because I often read thought leadership pieces because I think they're provocative and they're thought-provoking. Right. So good job, guys. Good job to your team. Well, let's get right into it. In case y'all haven't been and visited us with the podcast before, it's a relatively new podcast, and it's a hot take approach. And we're focused on cybersecurity, cloud security, and AI security. And so we put out a weekly episode, and we ask our guests 3 focused questions. And our goal is to sort of educate our listeners, not sort of, it is, about the security landscape, and it's both from a risk and an opportunity perspective. We do a soundbite approach, and it's meant to be sort of a momentary look at what is going on right this minute in the space, because as you know, it's always changing. So let's dig right in. I'm going to ask the first question of Anton. How can cybersecurity professionals leverage generative AI to break out of traditional tools and tech mindset and drive more innovation and execution in their security programs?
So I want to start with maybe admittedly a somewhat negative take, is that I definitely met people who have used the AI revolution as an opportunity to go deeper into the tool and tech trap. So they now assume that their tools have quote unquote intelligence, and that the tool can in fact replace the process that's broken. You know, you probably remember the GRC years and the early SOAR years, where this whole line about if your process is broken, buying a tool would not fix it. So this was meant to be almost like a axiom, or the given truth, that if your process is broken and you bring a tool to fix the process remains broken. It's just either faster or it's broken in a new way. Now, this used to be true, and actually it is still true, but AI sends some people down the path of no. The tools we have now with AI are in fact intelligent, and they can fix the process. I disagree for today. I disagree today. in 5 years, 3 years, who knows? Ask me again. But I feel like I'm almost like turning your question and saying, no, actually, some people went deeper in the tools and tech, and now they feel like the assumption that tools don't fix broken processes is not true anymore. So I'm sort of nervous about this because I feel like if you bring agentic AI or AI agents to a process that's broken, it would just be massively business destroyingly broken. It may be like dramatically more broken than with just classic automation. So that's why I am nervous, but I do see the idea that AI helps people think, that test things, test assumptions, gather and structure data. And to me, this is a thinking aid. Whether it's a tool or a process change, that to me is a kind of an interesting debate to have. But to me, the change is primarily that, well, okay, I have an idea, I have a certain plan. Let me discuss it with Gemini. I was just doing it before this very call, before this very recording. I wanted to test some idea that I have about using non-human identities for securing agents. And I wanted to know what Gemini thinks. And I want to be tested on Gemini seeded with documents I have and just like regular Gemini. And I got some interesting ideas. I noted them down and I would pursue them. So to me, this part is not just, I'm going to buy a tool that has AI and it will do the work. To me, this is like a collaboration experience. You can have it with Gemini, with Notebook LM, and of course with other leading AIs from other vendors. I'll be fair to that. So there is a lot of AI for CISOs that fits into this bucket. And I think to me, this is becoming transformative, at least from some CISOs I hear about.
Yeah, that's fair. And, we'll have to visit again because I am fascinated by securing ephemeral agents. There's so much there. So let's move on to the next question. There's so much shadow AI happening in organizations right now. What is the best way for the CISO to communicate the value of secure AI adoption?
So this is, it's interesting because it almost like your question contains an implication that if you do shadow AI, it's insecure. But actually, you can set the guardrails so that you can have enough freedom and enough value within the guardrails. So it would not be necessarily shadow AI as you don't know about it, but it can be the bottom-up approach. Because it's almost the conundrum that I face sometimes is that we tell people, and everybody tells people, hey, go and experiment, go learn. You need to boost up your skills. AI skills matter, blah, 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 this type of line of thinking. So people go and experiment with AI. Of course, they would experiment with what they can get for free, which means consumer grade. Again, Gemini, other tools, which you can get for free or for a very nominal cost. So, and then later on, the bosses say, oh yeah, you learned, now implement. And some of them choose to implement with the same tools. And the question is, whoa, hold on. You're implementing for enterprise. You're not using consumer tools. And sometimes the reaction is, what do you mean consumer tools? Oh, never mind. It is not the same as, your CEO wanting an iPhone in 2007. It's a bit different because there would be enough things where, say, consumer grade AI would learn from prompts, and we want that to be the case because I want AI to become better and smarter and work better next time. But in many business scenarios, I do not want the AI to learn from my prompts because maybe my prompts has either corporate sensitive data or PII or whatever else. So it starts right there, two roads. Right. So when you learn with shadow AI and you run shadow AI, even like where your bosses know you do it, for the certain use cases, you may be fine and you're not increasing the risk. But then you touch certain other use cases and it becomes either, hold on, we have an approved tool. It doesn't have these risks. Use that. Or in some cases, the answer really is, sorry, no. The answer is no. I mean, we can make all the jokes about how security should not be a party of no, but sometimes really answer is no. You can pick a situation where you would put a very sensitive, personal, regulated type of data in a tool. And the answer is you just don't do that. There's no real, you should not pursue this direction. And I've seen that here, I've seen that elsewhere, where sometimes the answer really is no. But before that, it is almost kind of a maybe catch and release is not very scientific and not very governance speak, But to me, you do want to observe, you want to know what people do, and you want to have a very rapid process for approving tools, very rapid process for nudging to approve tools. I had a CISO tell me in a hallway conversation that they had data scientists who wanted a certain consumer grade AI, and they were willing to pay for the business version of the same tool. But their company bought Google Workspace with Gemini, and he said, hey, you guys should use Gemini. And their initial reaction was, no, we're just used to this tool. But in reality, Gemini can do everything that the other tool does and more, and for their use cases, not in general, for their use cases. And over time, they migrated to an approved tool. It happened to be Google's, but it's actually immaterial to this example. The point is that they moved to an approved tool through a gentle nudging process that started a discovery, conversation, and then sort of like, hey, this is the road. You can take this road. And what happens after that? There's an exception process. There's this one guy who had this one use case where Gemini was not a fit. So exception, a timed exception was granted for the use of the other tool. So to me, this is kind of not super magical and not very AI driven, but it is the process that has worked. Compared to governance of software as a service 10 years ago, the only big difference, no, not the only, one of the big differences is that you have to run faster. You have to run at much higher speed. We did an RSA panel, and at that RSA panel, this came up from all the panel members. Hey, governance process, you have good ideas, but if you run this on quarterly meetings, sorry, buddy, no go. It's the same as saying no. If you say yes, but in a quarter, it's essentially a no today, and you will get bypassed, and much riskier options would be in de facto use.
Yeah, and I'm really, you're right. It was sort of a little bit of a trick question, but you got that right away. And I'm glad that you sort of bifurcated for people the reality of what's happening today in the workplace, because this is exactly what is going on today, right?
Yep.
We may think it's something different, but this is what's happening. So last question, share your thinking on establishing a strong AI governance framework. You already sort of talked about the fact that you have to go faster. But besides going faster, what are a few other ways that organizations should be thinking about this, and what tactical measures can they put in place to get it moving?
So I think that you do need the discovery process. This is kind of one of the fun ones because you end up with knowing what people use today. And I mean, it does start from shadow AI, indeed, but at the same time, you do need this for some other use cases, because you may have teams that purchased with the approval of their manager, and you have, I think in one of the blogs, we called it shadow AI type 2, where a certain part of the business approved it. So it is business approved, but it is not top-down approved.
Yeah.
So if you have that, you still need discovery, because you may be sitting in the security office, in CISO office, in detection and response, or in the SOC, and you discover a certain tool in use, and you confront the team, and they say, nah, it's an approved tool. My manager approved it. So discovery applies not just to shadow AI, but also to this type of business, but not really. The other bit is that, of course, the speed that I mentioned. I think the framework is, don't go on a quest for the best framework. Have a framework. To me, the advice is not go on a quest, sit on top of the mountain for 30 years, assuming that you will get a framework. No, just pick a framework and run with it, because you would adapt, you would be agile, and you would have this is allowed, this is not allowed, this is allowed in this particular way. If you do this here, make a slight change, and it becomes allowed. All that is kind of at the center of it. And then you do center on the use cases quite a bit, because you may say, can I use AI for X? And I'd be like, well, what are you doing with X? Are you doing more this or more that? If you're doing more this, actually even consumer grade is fine. Do whatever you want. Don't care. If you do this, be careful. Here's the tool. And if you try to do this with AI, by God, no, stop. I mean, here's my lawyer friend. Hello, lawyer, make them stop. I mean, there would be... Yeah, we just did a podcast on lawyers' take on an AI agent, and it was really hilarious. We did not think it was fun, but it was. So that's that. And then escalation. I think that you would have these certain decisions that people may want to bypass, and they would go up. And it is possible that the big boss would say, no, your exception's fine, go do that. And then, of course, he owns the risk, which is true for pretty much every other IT exception, down all the way back to my CEO wants an iPhone, but it applies here as well. You will have an escalation point, and then after that, you monitor. I mean, you would obviously not lose the detection and response angle. You would do a lot of, classic monitoring from traffic sniffing and the URL, web access watching, and a whole bunch of other things. So that's always the final step that you would observe. If you don't observe a lot of other stuff you've done, you may not have actually done it. You may think you've done it, but you haven't really.
That's
so this
fair.
is the somewhat short and humorous take. And of course, I've missed a few things. I've missed people sitting in committees for hours deciding some of the things. But as long as it happens rapidly and the decisions are made, you may be fine.
Yeah, that's good advice. It's moving fast. We're all learning. So I appreciate you taking time to visit today. Insightful as always. And I'll have to have you back to talk ephemeral agents because that'll be really cool. But thank you for the time today.
Sure, thank you.